She would have chosen to turn it. So I stood up, more of them, and from the hills. Southern Oregon, I would say.
Yeah, like I said, it's socks, it's like the first off season, I'm kind of taking it some ways. I think that's so now I'm like, okay, let's get it back, let's start great. And get up to do something.
I see that she wanted the month off.
Yeah.
So I gave it to her, she called me last week, I said, "Hey, I'm ready to go." So.
It's about battery pack, pictures of them.
Probably not just.
Yeah.
This, has really really awesome. Yeah. It's like, doing different things.
Yeah.
That's like a.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get out for he put to bed, and put a roof on my house, or do that, you know, all my ready to put it in my yard. All the. So, working in my garden. It's the hazard of our lives.
How are you? I know, I will.
Yeah. Good deal. Alright, let's go play this. Mark. Maybe it's good back then, these are just copies, so it's was. Sorry. Sorry. I'm good. How's everybody?
This show, you're.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just wondering.
Crazy man.
I'll figure it out. Hey.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
I've been there a lot, so. I drove up. Yesterday, the day before. You couldn't see a car in front of you from an vision. I do. I've got one. Thanks. Yeah. All right. I was at a funeral, couldn't get it done. So I put a new composite roof on the little, so it'll be known. And had a couple of patios, that redone. And so I've been doing landscapes on the blocks, and I raised all of my flower beds about that high. So we can sit on it and get back up when that day comes. It is. Little 1,000 square foot patio home. Thank you. So we're gonna paint the black. I'm joking with you. I know, I'm joking with you. It's probably, it's okay. All right, yeah. Oh, my word. Nicer than our movies. They look nicer than our
Hello again. Hello.
See, she wants to own the sports zone.
Look at that.
I would too. I'm
Sort of blessing you can look.
Yeah. So. We have to.
We do both at the same time.
Plus, I have a little house between the roads and the area where it's. So it's not just the back to the apartment, so I need to take the network easy. So there's a street days again. So the last day I was, I was thinking like, okay, come on. Great. I was just walked out with broken. And but there's someone's.
I know, right?
When you buy yours. I guess I was just. Which is 20 years.
She's gone. Come on. That's money to start. I know.
So. He worked for me for. Good fun, little skier. Early December. Private television. These licenses.
You know, I was like, stuff like that.
That's what I tried.
Some things and, you know.
And so it's remarkable. People ride. Good or bad.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It is 9:00, so call city orders. Roll call. Mayor McCollum here, Councilor Daniel Lamb,
Here.
Councilor Angela Black. Here. Councilor Steve Cherry,
Here.
Councilor Justin Rutherford.
Here.
Thank you, stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for our community that we have the privilege to represent. Thank you for the off season. Gives us a little time to rest. We ask for moisture. We pray for lots of moisture for the upcoming season and for a successful summer season. Be with us today and guide us with wisdom and judgment. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, for the approval of the agenda, and I'm taking the motion for that. I'll make the motion for the approval of the agenda. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is public comment. Is that from last time?
There were some added today.
Oh, well, so Lisa Wood is not here. So Richard, you want to come up and
Okay.
say your name and take your 3 minutes?
Yep. Richard Swigert. Last winter, the town's, group, Public Works came down and removed some trees on Silverbell that were dead. So thank you for doing that. They did a great job. Okay. Now I've asked the mayor and the council to authorize them to come down again and remove some more dead trees that are on city property. Right there on the Millet entrance of the Alpine, that row of pine trees, right there, there's a couple dead trees in that row. And then there's one in the alley that is right at the end of that row. Okay, I think the one in the alley may still be half alive, but I think it's time to take it down. Okay. So I'd appreciate your attention to that matter. And then the second matter is maybe more for Georgiana than anybody, but is now a proper time for me to ask to be put on the agenda for next month?
You would have to, and for specifics, you have specifics.
Okay, so I asked for approval to be put on the agenda for next week to talk about some bordering properties at the Alpine.
Again,
I would like to be approved, be on the agenda next week for bordering properties at the Alpine.
next month.
Next month, yes, next month. That work?
Yeah, and maybe we can visit beforehand, so we have an idea going into.
I prefer not to visit beforehand. I'm not gonna ambush anybody, okay? I'm not gonna do that, that's not me. But I wanna bring it to your attention in a public forum, and we'll talk about it then, okay? So I don't need no private meetings, okay? I'm just not gonna ambush nobody. I want you to feel comfortable about that. It's not about ambushing anybody, okay? So I just would like, I think I just need more than 3 minutes to discuss what I want to discuss. So I just don't want to be limited to that, okay? Is that fair? That's all I got. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, next item is approval of the minutes from our regular meeting, March 24th. I can have a motion.
I'll make that motion that we approve the minutes from March 24th meeting.
Have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is approval of our special meeting on April 2nd. We have a motion for that.
I'll make the motion to approve it. Second.
I have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the fun part. We get to recognize our employees who have been so, well, not faithful, but been so, good to serve us for so many years. And today we're gonna recognize Jeff Brunson for 20 years of service. Jeff is our Deputy Public Works Director. He was the first person I hired after I was elected mayor. I was elected in March and we hired him in April. And we've both been around a while, so he probably has more knowledge of the town water system than anybody that we've ever had.
Whether he wants to or not.
What do you want to So this award is in recognition of 20 years of service. Your commitment and contributions have made a lasting impact on the community. Thank you.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
So good to have you here. Everybody in the audience and. Do what? What? That was the fun part. Next item, financial report and approval of expenditures from.
Your fees received in April, collected for February. In our four sectors under instruction were up $9,685, 78.47%. Retail trade was up $3,050, 2.05%. Real estate was up $1,201, 11.10%. Accommodation food services was down $23,678, 28.98%. Gross receipts tax for the month, we were down $2,557, 0.79%. Year to date, we're down $161,871, 5.18%. Lodgers tax recap for the month, we're down $36,112, 37.97%. And at reporting time, we had 2 management companies and 4 nightly rentals that hadn't reported. Year to date, we are down $43,589, 6.10%. And that is my report.
Any questions? Okay, guys, if I haven't had a chance to approve these expenditures, I will take a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the expenditures.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have the motion and a second to approve our expenditures for March. Do we have any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And next item on the agenda is planning and zoning. Nina, the first one is planning and zoning commission recommendation for county council to deny the variance request for Scott Pilgrim regarding parking at 421 Spear Street.
That is correct. So on April 16th, we had 2 hearings for 2 variance requests that were submitted. Mr. Pilgrim's was the first one, that's for 21 East River Street. He calls it River Lyric Lodge. And his request for the variance is he's required to have 14 parking spaces on site for his proposed development. And he only has 10 on site, so he's requesting off-site parking on River Street of 4 additional spaces. After review and conversation, the commission did approve to deny his recommendation. I mean, they denied his request.
Commissioner, Dr. Yan, questions for you?
I have a question.
Sure.
So the 4 parking spaces, are they on street parking? So
Yes, that's what he's requesting,
So-
on-street parking.
Okay, so they are not sitting on a private piece of property that he owns that's separate.
No,
Okay, so it's city property.
correct.
Thank you.
What is the development that he is planning? He is looking to have 4 condos. Will they be considered condos though?
Yeah, sure.
You can come on. Doug Patterson is his architect and is working with him and did his representation for variance.
Mayor, council members, good morning. My name is Doug Patterson with Living Design Group Architects from Taos, and I'm representing Scott Pilgrim, River Lyric Lodge. And just as a little introduction to the case, we're talking about the lot at the very end of River Street, 421, where the street dead ends. And then we have the church on the left, and then we have what's now called River Lyric Lodge on the right, and that's the old ice skating rink that was built there, right? So it's been a difficult property that's really been troublesome to figure out how to reuse all these years, and it's sat there empty for a long time. That lot is restricted on one side by the river, and then on the east side by the drainage and basically by the boundary there. And then on the west side, there's another property there. So whoever built the ice rink basically took a large portion of the lot building the ice rink, and so Scott Pilgrim came along, and he's basically trying to propose a use for that old ice rink. And the use that they're proposing is basically building that ice rink into 4 residential units, and then basically a living room space. So they're basically proposing to make it a lodging establishment. They have the existing house, and then they would be adding 4 residential units. The required parking for those units is 10 spots, and we have 10 spots on the lot. So we have enough parking for the residential units on the lot. The leftover space that's left in that old ice rink, it's a big space, right? We could propose more residential units, but if we propose more residential units, then we wouldn't be able to accommodate the residential parking on that site. The leftover space is basically like a living room or a small meeting room, right? We have to assign an occupant load to that space, and what we've assigned it is it's basically another 4 parking spaces that are required for that occupant load, right? So we have a total required parking requirement of 14 spaces. We can only fit 10 spaces on site. All the residential units have space to park on site. So we're basically asking for a variance to be allowed to count for 4 off-site spaces that are on the street. we're not asking for those spaces to be reserved or allocated only to this use. They would basically, you would basically be allowing us to use on-street parking for overflow parking. And that's the way most of the on-street parking in the town of Red River is used currently. At our hearing, the assistant deacon, was there for the church. And he stated that when they have big events, when they have weddings and stuff, they also use all the on-street parking around their facility. So it's really, what we're asking for is. Yeah. Yeah, what we believe we're asking for is the least amount of impact, meaning there's no impact on the streets around us, right? We're basically asking to allow us to use basically some of the on-street parking as part of our parking count. We're not asking for anything that's gonna cost the town money. And we're not asking for something that's gonna make any existing conditions worse. Right, so we're not asking to reserve parking, we're not asking to impinge on the street. What we're proposing is that we would actually build a sidewalk along that portion of the street and make the use of that space better and the condition better. And we believe the strict application of the parking requirements would actually make the situation worse. So one of the ideas the Planning and Zoning Commission came up with was, why don't we put garage units inside the 4 residential units that we're making? If we did that and made our application that way, we would actually be losing 6 parking spots on the street because we would have driveways coming into those residential units. So the strict application of the parking requirements as is would actually result in a loss of parking, on-street parking for Red River. We believe the project has a big benefit to the town. Number one, the gross receipts from construction, and number two, the gross receipts from additional rental units and GRT, and to basically reuse a troublesome property that's been empty for a long time. So that's our application, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Flores.
Is there enough room to park against the ice skating rink? Is that already in the plan?
That's already there now. So there's
That's where your tent on.
that's on-street parking. So the 10 existing spots, if you go all the way to the end of the street, you take a right.
I'm not lying here.
There's a big garage,
Yeah.
and then there's a bunch of driveway there,
Yeah.
right? So that fits 7 spots. On the west side of the building, there's a little access road where the Zamboni used to come into the ice rink. That fits 3 spots. So we can fit 10 cars on site. And then right now, there's parking, on-street parking the entire length of that street. And sometimes when the church has big events, they'll fill up both sides of the street. So we're basically asking just to be allowed to account for that shared use of that parking, if there's overflow parking, and to use spots on the streets.
And when that causes a safety problem, if the church is having an event and they're using all that on-street parking, and your place is full and you use that on-street parking, you have an ambulance or a fire truck in that area, now you totally absorb all the area for safety in and out.
Well, again, we're not asking for any change to the existing conditions, and we're not making any conditions worse. Right now, there's on-street parking on both sides of that street, and emergency vehicles can get in and out of the church parking lot. We're not asking for any change to that condition whatsoever. And we're saying if there are parking restrictions, if there's parking restrictions for snow removal, or if there's events at the church, the residential units, we have enough space on site to park for the residential units. It's basically the parking requirement calculation that makes us go over that on-street parking. So we're not asking for any change to the existing conditions, and we wouldn't be making any condition worse.
And how many feet from the street to the building? How many feet is that?
There's like 6 feet in there.
It's only 6 feet to the building.
Yeah.
And the curb.
The property line is 3 feet to the curb.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a bunch of big trees in there, and we're basically proposing so that we don't make the only thing that we could really see is that if we're relying on on-street parking to people getting in and out of the units, if we're putting traffic like pedestrian traffic on the street, that would make it worse. So we're proposing to build a sidewalk inside the curb so that allows us access in and out of those units along the streetscape there.
I have a question for the council. Do we have any existing variants similar in town? Do we have any business, home, property where their parking is legitimately just on the street.
I would say everything on Main Street, there's not.
No,
very
no, no,
many
but
businesses.
for business owners, you have to provide a certain amount of parking, so do I.
Right.
Places like Sitzmark have a separate location, but are there any variances we have already approved that allows to build a structure and have the parking on the street? Because once we pass the precedent,
Right.
we have opened the town to parking on the street. No offense to your project whatsoever, I'm just looking at long-term impact.
Yeah.
I agree.
You've established
We've done it
a
before.
precedent.
It is common to, you know, in most downtown urban areas, the off-street parking requirements are more lenient. So in downtown Taos, in their historic district, they do not require that properties fulfill the off-street parking requirements because there's overflow lots in town, there's parking on the streets to accommodate downtown businesses. So it is a common practice. I don't know if that's been applied in Red River. or
Actually,
something.
we know
Yeah.
that day is coming.
Yeah.
That it will no longer be possible to drive up to your apartment, walk straight in the door. We know that is coming.
Yeah.
But not yet.
Okay.
I don't think we've taken actions that actually limit off-street parking otherwise.
I've never been a fan of the parking ordinance, period, because you go to Park City, Utah, there's the same thing. It's people have to walk by 5 businesses to go eat pizza, and they stop at a store and buy a necklace, you know, so it's, and we have a town parking lot, so. But right now, we still have an ordinance, so.
Justin, could you speak on behalf of the fire department?
My question is, what's the width of the street currently?
It's wide.
The property is actually, I mean, the street is that whole cobblestone section, right?
Yes, so it's the same width as all the other streets in town that have parking on both sides of the street. I believe it's a 60-foot easement on that end, so you have a full 24-foot drive width. And right now, there's legal on-site parking on each side of the street. And if you see the church during a wedding event or something, they fill up both sides of the street and there's good access in and out of the parking lot for emergency vehicles. And it functions that way. The assistant deacon did come from the church and he basically said, you know, the way it exists right now allows for emergency vehicles to get in and out of their parking lot when they're fully parked and during their larger events. And he basically came to just make sure we weren't trying to change that. The strict application of the law would mean that we would apply for driveways for each one of those residents. So we would actually be making a condition worse by taking away on-street parking. The on-street parking is flexible and available for use by anybody. And like we said, the requirement for the residential units, we can accommodate on-site, right? We're not applying to make this an event center. We're not applying as a center where we basically book this thing and invite 30 people to come and fill up the parking lots. There's extra space in that building just because it's such a big building and we have to account for it somehow, right? So either, you know, and we purposely limited the number of residential units so that we could fit the residential parking on site. We're not applying for any residential parking on the street. It's strictly the parking requirement that makes us have extra spaces. Right.
So if you don't get the variance, what happens to the development?
I think that remains an unbuildable site. So I think if we can't make that work, then we have to go back to the drawing board or not use the property that way. I think there's been, several attempts to use this property over the years and nothing has stuck. So we just end up with an empty building there, I think. Yeah.
I have a question for Dina. I'm not real familiar with the parking ordinances. For all of the food and beverage locations located up and down Main Street that don't have on-site parking, how do we justify that?
Well, here's some of the, I don't want to say the issue, but what has happened is prior to this ordinance, some businesses were here and that parking plan didn't look like it did after the ordinance, right? And so I believe they just put in their parking plan as they did at that time. And whatever requirements, I don't know what happened before this ordinance. that's what they would submit. Now, we do have, parking requirements for businesses that is gonna read differently than it would for residential or STR. That's the challenge. But we do not, what we won't do is accept a personal request to use on-site or town property for that business's parking, right? It's hard to gauge if that's the case, for me, if that's the case. Cause we're essentially, no, we're not designating it, but we are saying, yes, you could have these 4 spaces here. And we've had that before, and yes, they've had to adjust their parking plans. Sometimes it's just coming for a variance to requesting an elimination of a space or so. But I have yet to see anything requesting on-site parking of town property.
In a town that almost every square inch has been used for something and there's not very much parking, does that limit us on economic development, bringing new businesses in and allowing them to operate?
I think overall, our parking is an issue. It just is an issue regardless if we have new folks coming in or even as it stands. We are just seeing changes in town, so there are no longer small vehicles coming in. We have SUVs, we have trailers, it's just always gonna be a challenge. I will say that the commission, did really consider what was presented to them, and you see Doug can do a great job at presenting it. But because of the way the variance reads, this is where their recommendation came from. They do agree there are many great points. It would bring something different to town. And so they understood that, they empathized with that. But the reality is the way that it reads, they could not give an approval or recommendation. Yeah.
Someone's buying a lot of their property.
Yeah, so
So other businesses are out of their way to buy more property to accommodate development. So they didn't ask for variance to cut on High Street. They went ahead and bottom of the lot so they could accommodate their need for parking. Sorry.
just, council, as, I think as we look at our next strategic plan, we've got to look at deeper density for Red River. We're not there yet, but we're getting there rapidly. But we have the counterbalance. We have expectations from our customers that just like they can do at home, they can drive up, park, walk into a home, a business. And so that has an impact. If somebody drives up to a full parking lot and there's nowhere to park, they will drive off. So it works both ways. But we need to address future density issues for Red River. But I don't think that's come today. And right now we have an existing variance. I mean, existing laws that we have to deal with. But just longer term planning, if you'll work with me.
So do I have a motion to approve planning and zoning's recommendation? So, okay, so what we'll do is the motion will be to approve because that's what the recommendation is. And then if you vote no, then you're voting to allow the variance. So we need a motion to approve the recommendation from planning and zoning.
To deny.
That's what to deny. If you vote yes, you're agreeing with planning and zoning and you're denying the variance. If you vote no, then you are not approving this, so you're basically allowing the variance.
Just one thing before you go. One thing I would encourage you to do is regardless of what happens today, there's, go back and look at the project. We will be glad to work with you going forward and finding better ways to do this.
Perhaps,
And so I encourage you not to give up regardless of the vote
Yeah.
today.
perhaps another way to look at it, as stated, the town has granted variances to basically reduce the requirement for on-site parking, right? So as opposed to, because right now we're trying to meet the parking requirements. And we're applying for a variance to count some of the on-street parking. If we could look at this differently and we could say, the variance is to reduce the parking requirement and only require the parking for the residential units on site.
We can address that
Okay.
today.
Yeah, we would basically have to come back and apply for a variance for stating that.
Right.
Okay,
And
very good.
And we're you know, this is not a hard no.
Yeah.
It's just work with this and let's see if we can find a different resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so
And
if I,
But for,
Daniel, there is precedence, but we did it for the house next to the library. It became a rental. That's still not, I was trying to remember one.
okay,
We allowed them to park on the street because it gets really wide there, I mean, super wide.
okay,
So it has happened at least once.
okay. I was unaware of any precedent.
okay, so let's go ahead and let's have a motion and then we'll finish discussion.
Before you vote, Isaac had.
I wanted to know about that snow removal, because the church usually plows all their snow up against that curb. And who's gonna be responsible for moving all that and in front of the building there and the sidewalk itself?
I don't see that changes because the church parks there all the time anyway.
Right, so I think, you know, so obviously this facility would be removing snow on site. And I would say if they're removing snow, in front of those spaces, or if they're allowed to do that, they would be willing to do that. So we did talk about snow removal at planning and zoning. We said if there's a restriction and they don't allow on-street parking for a period of time for snow removal, again, we have the parking for the residential units on site. Right, so they could basically operate with all the residential units parking on site and basically say there's no guest at that time. So that, you know, it's again, yeah, so we had a plan for snow removal as well, thank you.
Okay, so if I could have a motion to approve planning zone's recommendation.
I'll make that.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to deny it. So a yes is gonna deny it, a no will allow. Okay, so roll call.
Counselor Steve Cherry,
Yes.
Counselor Jerry Moran.
yes.
Counselor Angela Black,
No.
Counselor Justin Brandenburg.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. So hopefully we will work with you to go over, you know, to come back with another. Okay. Okay, the second one is, is a recommendation to approve a mayor's request for Kerry Rosenberg regarding setback requirements at 303 Walnut.
That is correct. So they have purchased that home on lot 303 Wild Oak. The current setback requirements are 10 feet on the front and the back, and they're requesting it to go down to 2 feet. And that was approved. And mostly because of the variance, the way it reads. It is a very narrow lot. They are coming off a steep hill. And they would still keep their parking. They weren't affecting any neighbors and anyone around them. The way that their property is elevated, it just didn't harm anything else. So they did approve that. So they reduced their requirement from the 10 feet to the 2 feet.
Where is Wild Oak?
Wild Oak is, as we're going west, headed towards the Angel Fire where you're gonna go. I don't know who I can refer to.
Oh, okay, thank you. That
What
helps.
did you call?
Snyder's Mountain.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
it hasn't been here for 40 years. Okay. So, okay.
So they gave a recommendation to approve the request.
Okay.
We have a motion.
On the motion to approve the variance request.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, roll call.
Counselor Justin Brandenburg,
Yes.
Counselor Steve Cherry,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel Brown.
Yes.
Counselor Angela Black.
Yes. And motion carries. Thank you, Brianna.
Thanks.
Okay, next item is committee report. We'll start with public safety.
Okay. So quick meeting, we did hold a meeting, just a quick rundown, police report. For March of 26, we have total incidents of 72. Dispatch had 147 total calls for the month of March, 353 non-emergency CAD calls, and dispatch is fully staffed at 5. The digital radio installation has been completed, as well as the administrator training and dispatch training were all completed in March. That's still true?
Yes.
Okay, great. They held a high-risk wildland file response. Dispatch protocol review took place on March 18th to just update, make sure that we're all talking on the same page. Fire department had 26 emergency medical service calls. in March. There were 35 last year. 2 fire calls, property inspections continue. So far, we have had 9 property inspections this month with an expected 10 more for the rest of the month. And the goal is 25 inspections a month. We'll just continue to work with it. Our discussion points, obviously, at the time, we're talking about impact of dry winter, fire vulnerability, forest closures, concerns about Memorial Weekend with forest closures. We continue to watch that carefully. As we get talking more and more about Memorial Weekend, we will continue to update about fire hazards. For those of us who don't know, we are currently in stage 1 fire restrictions. We did have a little brief discussion just because the subject of parking came up. And this is part of our continual challenge is Memorial Weekend parking. So just looking at a couple of options rather than, because we have Center Street parking, and this is not settled by any stretch of the imagination, but we have Center Street parking on Main Street. But the challenge is, how do we get emergency vehicles around them? So someone suggested that we alternate, that we allow Center Street parking scattered. So we'll do 1 block, skip a block, do another block, skip a block, do another block. So we will spread this event throughout the town, reduce the amount of people parking in each block so that those corners are still open. You can get a longer far engine out, and shorten the ends of those things. So say the block in front of us here, we will allow parking, but both sides would be cut back from their side streets so that you can get a vehicle in and out. And this would be parking, but not the street next to it, not the street. The next ones would be parking. Just an idea. It's under discussion. We will see if it has any merit or whether it dies where it sits. And the public safety, thank you very much, Jason, came up with the ideas like, why do we reinvent this wheel every time? If we can establish some sort of dialogue and some sort of building plan of how we host these major events. So and once we establish how we can deal with parking, off-street parking, safety vehicles, if we set it up that it meets all of our needs, we can then use that for 4th of July and for other high traffic events, because they are all becoming much more dangerous. So we've got to find better ways of controlling them. We are no longer getting up in our mountains anymore. And so we're looking for establishing some plans that we could then take that format and reapply it over and over and not have to reinvent the wheel every time. Those discussions are ongoing. And after that, we had an adjournment. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
What works?
Oh, we did not have any.
Parks and trails?
We did have a meeting, guys. We had our town cleanup on April 22nd, which I think we had 13 volunteers show up for the town cleanup, which was good. We discussed, we know that the mud park, they started working on the pump track, and that's looking good with their turf down. We talked about adding, and we would like to have 2 more gazebos put in mud park. And River Rock, the coalition has boulders we have from an existing project that we will donate to the county for the natural barriers if they need them, or those boulders are Pioneer. We also would like to get a sign in the Millette Park that states no trailer parking, because if you have 3 or 4 trailers parking in Millette and no one can get in and out at all, you can't turn around, you can't do anything. So we'd like to have no trailer sign parking, and then we have you can try and get them to park at the old golf course. So that kind of frees up Millette parking for people that are trying to enjoy the park. We discussed some small renovations to the old softball field, like fixing the holes in the fence, putting some new nets in the soccer ball field, maybe add some trash cans, because that area can be used a little better. What else? So we talked about Vanderbilt Park. The engineers looked at getting electrical done, I think, for the summer, and adding some 50-amp plugs for Vanderbilt Park. We also talked about the signs of the town. We talked talked about, I guess, for a very long time. I've brought the existing plans that we've looked at before. If that's where we wanna go still, but we'd like to kind of get those going, enough to get dinner, we need to, about that project. Also trying to figure out where we'd like to put the one on the west end of town, since our town city limits has changed. We discussed on where we do put that sign in the west end of town, that it is someplace where people can park, because people like to get out, take pictures with their sauces. We'd also like to have them illuminated. If you got any other mountain town in the area, all those, when it says welcome, Telluride, for example, their signs are lit, you know, when you arrive there, ours are not, they're very dark, so we'd like to get those lit. We know that the Red River to Cluster Trail has all been approved and that will start, the process will take a while, I'm guessing they said 5 to 10 years, I think was the overall idea. And we would like, I think that's all we discussed.
Any questions?
Not from Justin, but could I back up and ask Steve one question? Community members are asking me, why are we replacing the asphalt on Main Street? Could you just tell us why we're replacing the current asphalt on Main Street? Well, we've dug it all up and we're relaying new asphalt.
Because the elevations changed, I think, with the curves
Okay.
and the drain pans. And so part of the plan was to meet that instead of having patches.
I'm not complaining,
Yeah.
and people are not complaining, they're
It's gonna be really nice.
and it'll be great.
The project.
That was just part of the project because of the need.
People just wondered, why are we doing that? And so that's all I needed. It'll be beautiful.
And it's also a requirement from DOT, when you ever replace your sidewalk,
Thank you.
replace your asphalt.
Good.
That is part of
Okay.
it.
Yeah, thank you. Community needed to hear that. So
Are
we
they gonna
appreciate it.
strike? They doing all
I'm
strike?
gonna do stretch it to a point, like as far as us putting the no parking areas that we talked about, that would be on those, but
And
crosswalks, fire lanes, yellow curve, be painted by them.
That was all I had.
All right, architects.
We did not have a meeting this month.
Okay, we'll go to the mayor's report. We've had a lot going on, a lot of projects, a lot's happening, but, we got a call that we received 1.4 additional funding, 1.4 million additional funding for our housing. So we're gonna look at some plans that we're doing for that, so hopefully you guys will approve that, down a little bit later in the agenda. I also submitted for congressionally directed spending to, Congresswoman Lujan, no, let me get this straight, Congresswoman Leila Fernandez for $2.5 million, and Senator Lujan for $2.5 million, and Senator Heinrich for $2.5 million. We did it back from the Congresswoman's office that our project was one of 20 that's moving forward. So we're pretty hopeful that we'll get that $2.5 million, but it has to go through the federal budget process. So it probably won't be till next summer, but it's still something that we can look forward to. We're still adding to the housing project that we're doing.
I saw her on Sunday and
Oh,
was
did
able to
you?
put a bug in her ear.
Oh, nice.
Just a little personal bug.
Good deal.
Yeah.
I just remind you that we're gonna have a budget meeting and a Memorial Weekend meeting on May the 6th. We had a really good meeting with Bill Wise yesterday, who's doing the housing for us for the projects, at the Golden Eagle Butlers site. And I think we've got a lot of you notice it's all gone, we've completed the demolitions, which is a little bittersweet probably for Jeannie, but, so we've got the planning for the grading, we'll have to do some retaining walls, but when we start bringing them in, and hopefully if all goes well, by the second week in May, third week at the latest, we'll start seeing some houses coming in, which is pretty exciting. The money has to be expended by June 30th. It can't be just committed, it has to be expended. I'll just, FYI for everybody, Max's dad passed away last week, so, I'm not sure if we know this. He was actually out at the time, but he wasn't able to be with his son, so that was when he was up here. I'll be leaving after this meeting to go to Ruidoso for the New Mexico Silver Trees Fund board retreat on that Thursday. Just a quick update, and I know the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board did an amazing job of awarding the funding for these special events. I did meet with the Red River Jamboree that had requested $10,000 and they were denied any funding. They've only done the event once. So there was some additional funding. I just felt like it's important that if somebody is willing to do an event for the town, especially with forest closure and with some issues that summer. So I did agree to commit $3,500 to him. And along with that, we'll allow them to use the stage that is gonna be set up, so that won't be any additional cost for us and to use the conference centers. So there'll be some in kind, but it will be $3,500. So I didn't want the committee to feel like I went completely above and beyond you guys. But I thought it was important that I just had to shut somebody down. And we did have a really strong conversation about what they charged for the tickets last year. They're gonna do some changes with the way the food vendors are gonna be, so that people can access them with maybe just a $5 entrance fee. Talking about moving it to a different weekend next year. It's already committed this year, so, be mad at me because I did that.
He's willing to work with us too.
Yeah, and he's got, he's got some good support, and he's got his musicians already booked and all that, so, we'll give him another chance. I think 1 year doesn't really give it enough of a shot, so that's with that. And then I just wanted to make a quick, just follow up with some lovely chatter that's going on Facebook yet again. So I did not cancel Mayfest. What happened with Mayfest is after the 2023 events, we did a really hard pivot. And we said the town does not support motorcycle gangs. And that's always been our position, is we don't support motorcycle gangs. So we came up with Mayfest. We had a really great group of local people that stepped up, that took the event, and we did it for 2 years. This year, whenever Max and our advertising company came to me and they said, so we're gonna advertise Mayfest this year, or what are we gonna advertise? And we talked about it and decided that Mayfest really doesn't take the spirit of what Memorial Weekend is. And it doesn't seem right for us to try and hide behind some little nice sounding name when it's a weekend that is for our veterans that actually gave their lives for our country. So I made the decision, along with Max, along with our advertising team, it would be advertised as Memorial Weekend, and we would really honor what was happening. We never were planning on doing away with the wall. We didn't know if we were going to bring it in, because the people that bring it in from Oregon weren't sure they were going to be able to get it to us. They are, so we're going to have the memorial wall inside the conference center. We're going to have a lot of different veterans services with booths represented there. We're going to have food trucks in the park, because some of our businesses aren't comfortable being open, but we're still going to have tourists here. We still need to feed them, so we will have food trucks in the park. As a governing body, it is not our job to tell a business what they can do. And so people will have vendors probably in front of their businesses. There will be stuff going on at the bars that are probably not going to be family friendly, because bars typically aren't family friendly. But, safety is our #1 concern. We've already had one meeting with law enforcement from around the area and state police. We went through the entire situational analysis. We treat this as a very serious appeal. We know there's potential. There's potential for something to happen on July 4th when we have a town full of people. There's a potential on Labor Day weekend. So the nature of our business is that we have hundreds of thousands of guests every year coming into this town. And, every segment is unique, whether it's the motorcycles, whether it's the church encampment, whether it's the OHV enthusiasts. Some are loud, some are not loud, and it's what we do. So our commitment is to keep our community safe, embrace everybody that comes in here, and try to improve everything for everybody. Okay? But I didn't cancel anything. So there you go. All right. With that being said, we will move on to new business. First item is consideration and approval of resolution 2026. These are really time extensions on the projects, and we're just putting them in place in anticipation if they don't get completed within the time frame. Okay, so the first one is for you want to talk That one, we
This one is for Main Street for sidewalk project.
So it's resolution 2026 10. So I would take any, motion to approve that.
I'll make that motion that we approve resolution 2026-10.
And I second.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, roll call.
Councilor Angela Black.
Yes.
Councilor Justin Brandenburg.
Yes.
Councilor Steve Cherry.
Yes.
Councilor Daniel Webb.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. The next one is resolution 2026-11, and this is a time extension for the sidewalk replacement, is that correct? High Street, for High Street. So if I can have a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-11.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for 2026-11. Any questions? All in favor, roll call?
Councilor Daniel Webb.
Yes.
Councilor Angela Black.
Yes.
Councilor Justin Brandenburg.
Yes.
Councilor Steve Cherry.
Yes.
Motion carries. And the next one is for 2026-12, extension. That's for High Street again. If I could have a motion for that,
I'll make a motion for resolution 2026-12.
I'll second.
okay, any, we have a motion in a second, any other discussion? Roll call?
Councilor Steve Cherry.
Yes.
Councilor Daniel Webb.
Yes.
Councilor Angela Black.
Yes.
Councilor Justin Brandenburg.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, the next one is for additional funding for the workforce housing. This is the 1.4. So we currently have 1.6 million, and with that, we were gonna build, we're gonna do 5 3-bedroom 2-bath that funding will cover, and then the town is gonna do 320,000 for an additional one, so that we have a total of 6 3-bedroom 2-bath. With the additional 1.4, we're hoping to do 4 1-bedroom, 1-bath units. Council, you have the plans in your, can we put those up? So basically, it'll be,
Mine.
That's not it.
that's on you.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, my apologies.
Yes, a rendering of the 6, but
Oh, no.
they'll look very much like the 6. There'll be a little bit of spacing, so there'll be the 6 first, there'll be a little bit of space, and then the 4. So there'll be 2 1-bedroom, 1-bath on the bottom, 2 1-bedroom, 1-bath on the top with outside stairways. Same color scheme, everything, it'll all be against that back. And what we're hoping is, by working with the, yeah, you got it. I don't know if you can see this. but-
Looks like a fourplex, but with.
We're hoping that we can sort of use the funding and, because this second complex probably won't be the entire 1.4. So hopefully shift the funding so that we're not out the 500,000, we're gonna have to be out, so that with the 3 million that we have to cover. So,
And they're not gonna be that color. We're looking at it.
we're going with the dark, so we give you like a really dark and then a light color alternate.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Just one quick, help me understand, where's the revenue coming for the 1.4?
it's from the same workforce housing, workforce solutions, so it's the governor's funding.
It's a
that you put
pass-through. Okay,
Yeah.
so the 1.4 that we're requesting today is not out of our pocket.
No.
That's all I need to know.
So we originally requested the money because the governor's housing money that she put through workforce housing, workforce development. We requested 3 billion and we got 1.6.
Yeah.
And a lot of communities haven't been able to spend the money because it's such a short deadline. It has to be spent by June 30th. And so because we were able to get ours committed and we're gonna get it spent, they called and said, could you spend some more?
Great.
And we said,
Yes.
yeah, we can spend money. So that's what it is. So we're just approving the actual funding. Okay, so I just need a motion to approve the funding with the.
I'll make this motion.
I'll second.
Okay, do I have a motion and a second? Any other questions? Okay, roll call.
Councilor Justin Brandenburg.
Yes.
Councilor Steve Cherry.
Yes.
Councilor Daniel Webb.
Yes.
Councilor Angela Black.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, the next one is workforce housing policy, and we have been doing the rental units for 2019, is that? And we had a policy, we have our basis in place, but we felt like with the new buildings, that we really needed to go through and look at it. And so we had a really good work session yesterday, and we do an entire workforce housing policy that our attorneys has looked at. Probably the biggest thing that we need to discuss is the pet policy. We recognize that people are very attached to their pets, but we also see the damage that gets done by having pets in our units. So we try to be kind of take a balanced approach. To recognize that there are some people, and Dina says it perfect, she says there's pet parents and there's pet owners. The pet parents are amazing, the pet owners, leave them in the units and they do their own thing. So, throughout the policy, is this the one, no, that is, okay. We identified legacy units, which are the units that are existing, and then the new units we coming in. And the proposal is not to allow pets in the new units. Some of the things that are done are, there'll be a non-refundable move-in fee. That's $200. Then there's a $400 refundable pet deposit. And then there's a $35 fee for a pet per month. And we're hoping that that money can maybe go towards some kind of a fund that would help our residents whenever they have a hard time. We know during off season, sometimes it's just hard to pay the rent. So they might be able to help supplement with that. Just simple things like they have to be registered, they have to, we also implemented, which I think is very important, is a tier system as to who rents the units and who gets priority. So tier 1 would be active town and regular employees. They currently get a 50% discount. That is taxable income, so it does show up on your W-2, even though they don't have to pay out of pocket. Tier 2 would be our employees of regular businesses, and they would pay the full market rate. Tier 3 would be our J1 workers under business occupancy agreements. We currently don't have any way to sublet our apartments. But we're going to do a business occupancy agreement where the business is responsible for the unit and paying their rent. And then after that would be employees of ETA circle areas. So we want to definitely take care of our people first, because that's the purpose of this. The other thing we addressed, and we talked about wording. So our 3-bedroom units currently went for $1,000, which is pretty reasonable. So we are going to be adjusting our rates. And the J1 students there could be 6 in there. And so we felt like the businesses should pay the amount that the J1s actually pay the contract. So I'll read you guys what I kind of put together. We'll have our attorney look at it. And I know there's some numbers that need to be changed. For any business renting workforce housing to J1 students, the minimum base rent for a 3-bedroom unit is $1,000 per month. When J1 students occupy the unit, their weekly payment of $125 per student will offset that rent. However, the business is not required to pay more than the total collected from J1 tenants if their combined payments exceed the base rent. In other words, the business's maximum obligation is capped at either $1,000 or the total J1 contribution, whichever is higher. Okay. All right. What else do we need to include in this, guys? What else do we need to talk about? Because we went through this very thoroughly yesterday.
I think the big part was the pets and tier.
Okay. Oh, the other thing was the weight and breed restrictions. So we did put a maximum weight of 55 pounds.
Yeah.
And we did designate the breeds that are not going to be pit bulls, terriers, Rottweilers, German shepherds, Doberman pinchers. So, okay. So any questions? Okay, seeing none, then I would take a motion to approve our new workforce housing policy.
I'll make,
Recognizing that this is a living document, it will be changing with this addition to it. Okay,
I'll make that motion that we consider an approval workforce housing policy.
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
Counselor Angela Clark.
Yes.
Counselor Justin Brandon.
Yes.
Counselor Steve Sherry.
Yes.
Counselor Diane Moore.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next one is, this is a public hearing for ordinance 2026-01, our animal control ordinance. This original one is from the early 1980s. And so we just went through and updated some of the definitions. We included, wildlife to make sure we know that our guests love to feed the wildlife and it's not always safe for them. Putting in some of the penalties for violation. And so it's a public hearing, so we welcome any comments from the public.
Well, you are gonna have the leaf law, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, now we really tightened everything up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we experienced the deal here at Park, during that party they had here,
Uh-huh.
because the dog wasn't on a leash and it stampeded to herd of deer right towards me and my grandbaby.
Hmm.
Okay, now, nobody was hurt, okay, well, okay, but we don't need that kind of crap happening in town.
So we
okay?
also included short-term rentals, because back in the 80s, that wasn't something we dealt with, so the people that do short-term rentals, we included events in the park. What else?
And we're gonna, Jason provided the state,
For animal cruelty.
for animal cruelty, we'll add that in there.
So we have a section on that.
Sorry, I got a lot to say about this
Okay.
thing, but, the other thing is cleaning up their mess from their dog.
Right.
It's in there.
Okay, so
And they're
that's fine.
fine.
I know this is all obvious stuff, right? But here's my concern as a business owner, okay? And this is, I don't bother Jason a lot of times with this. We've talked about stuff in regards to the Alpine, but, you know, I'm very particular about my front corner where I planted grass on that corner two times now, and I still don't have a good crop of grass yet, okay? But that's a good spot for everybody to take their dog and crap on my yard. Okay, I mean, I hate to call the marshal and say, hey, I got somebody trespassing on my corner, that their dog just crapped, he doesn't have a leash on. Will you respond? You know, I mean, that's almost like a minor thing, you know what I mean? I hate that, but, I mean, is there gonna be a response to a call like that? I mean, that's I've always wondered about that. I know it's so minimal, you don't like to bother, because I know they got other stuff they're working on. But this is a bothersome issue for me, because I don't take my pets and allow them to do that. I don't expect, but we're gonna have that, right? So I know Jason, he'll say, yeah, we'll respond, but it's just one of those things that as a business owner, I can deal with it, but sometimes I don't deal with it. I've gotten to the point where I don't like to deal with it because I don't deal with it very well. And I'd rather have the marshals come down because they're better trained. They're gonna be more respected because it's a law enforcement entity. I mean, is that too much to ask, or do you think that's gonna happen?
That's why.
But as we wrote these policies, as the town council wrote these policies, the first initial meeting is a warning / fine. With, I think we start with a $50 fine, with a $50 fine. Second warning, there's no second warning. It goes immediately to a second incident. It's $100.
75 or 100.
100. Third offense goes to 300. So there are things written there.
And I can appreciate that, but let me go back to my example that I used about the park with the dog off the leash, stampeded the deer. Okay,
Right.
the very next day, I see that dog on my corner off a leash.
Right.
So you see what I'm saying? When I have a bad experience and I don't address it, but then I see it again, I've become a little more angry.
But you know, under,
That second time, it'd be fine.
yeah,
You know,
100%.
so,
but you know, unfortunately, we live in a resort town. So
yeah,
it's
I'm
an-
aware of that,
it's a-
I appreciate that, we've all been here long enough to know that, what
Right.
comes with it, but still, there's gotta be some ordinances in place that are enforced, and
Right.
if we all wanna maintain our sanity in a resort town, either we gotta have these ordinances or
That's
we
why-
gotta move.
That's why we wrote them.
You know?
That's the purpose of this. We know that a lot of our ordinances are very outdated, and that's why we started with this one. Because we know that people love to feed the animals, they love to do things that aren't always good, they let their dogs bark when they shouldn't. So this gives our marshal's office something to use.
Great, thank you, Greg.
And it does all the time.
I was actually gonna ask that in one meeting, and thank you for bringing it up, because I was wondering if there was any type of ordinance that, you know, with that situation, I would hate to see somebody get stampeded and hurt when
When was it written? Not 1980
It was
something?
1980. Do you remember when I think it was 1980, because we was in the 80s, it was one of the, it was one of the early, one of the early. Yes, it was one of them. Anyway, okay, any other comments on that? So. I know we're dressing pets a lot today, I thought we had a full house, so I'm a little surprised.
So they're waiting outside with pitchforks.
Okay, so, if done, then I would take a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-01 animal control.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2026-01.
With the addition of that, the animal.
Animal control.
With the addition of
That's part of it, okay.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second to adopt the ordinance. Any other comments or questions? Okay, roll call.
Counselor Daniel Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor Angela Black,
Yes.
Counselor Justin Brandenburg,
Yes.
Counselor Steve Sherry.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, the next one is, building and installing regular welcome signs. So you have a drawing in your packet of the signs. So Justin, my only concern about this is, when you look at that, knowing that people are gonna take pictures, they can't see our town, that all they see is a welcome sign.
This is what you guys had already approved. This is performance. This is what
I think that's why it kind of got solved, because nobody,
Like a,
what really
we
stands.
need to, we're gonna have a discussion and figure out how we can get the signs that we really want. And get them approved, so we can get this
Oh, it does.
actually done, because I've been on council 3 months, 4 months now, and it has been the most brought to me is these welcome signs. So,
So what,
yeah,
do you have some ideas and?
I love it, like a combination of what we have there and our existing sign that we have now, I think is great.
Okay,
So I think we need to, public comment council, we need to really get the best of both. And get it going forward,
okay.
and we gotta make sure it's a reasonable bid. I don't know if you ever saw the other bid for these signs, was $130,000.
Right.
So we have to have like
Yeah.
a legitimate bid guy for me, like.
Hey, mortgage for.
Okay, so next agenda, we'll have this on, we'll have something for your committee in May. You'll look at and recommend the council. And I don't know if you guys remember, but when Sloan first took over Foxy Rec, you put it out on Facebook to ask the questions if we could change the welcome sign, if we should. I mean, we got pictures of people using it on birthday cakes. And we do our picture every year with our family here, please don't change anything. So I think we need to kind of keep the old, make it newer, but 100%, but that'll be what we do.
That's the key to life in Red River. You know, what's in the past and in the future, same
Okay.
person.
They take the old sign and put it in Brentford Park as a photo op area.
That's it, in my stuff.
Yeah, anywhere, just keep it so that they can still do their photos, but maybe move into the new generation.
Good idea.
I love it. Okay, so that'll be on, that'll be an action item next month. All right, the next one is RFP 126 for qualifications services. Yes, we have. Let's see on that.
Yeah, so, Mayor and Council, we'd like to go out for RFP for qualification services. That's to get all our ordinances online on our website. and they're in order, they're locked, they're legible. So people can just go on and print them or view them. So unfortunately, we didn't think we would have to go for a fee, but we do have to for the cost.
Okay.
Okay, so we can't use our current, is it Civic Plus to do it?
No, because of the
It's
cost.
all, how much is it gonna cost?
It's like, like 30.
But hopefully they can.
Yes,
send it.
absolutely.
Okay.
It would work better with other things.
It'll be on our town website and
Yes.
a tab or.
Okay, so I'll take a motion to approve required P number 126 for qualification services.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
One second.
I have a motion and a second for the RFP. Any questions? Roll call.
Counselor Steve Cherry,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor Angela Black,
Yes.
Counselor Justin Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right, now it's the governing body. Does, Dr. Rainford, you have anything?
No.
Chair?
Nope.
What about, this time? Counselor?
Today.
Okay, if there is no other business, we'll be adjourned. Thank you all.